check, check, check. Properties. Well, where's my, why is my nice microphone not showing up? All right. Well, crap. There. Let's see if that works. No? All right, this is my first stream here. I've got my XCOM set up. See, I do Twitch, so give me a second to be not a complete nincompoop. This is my first YouTube stream, and I'm trying to get this set up right screen. There we go. That's a little better looking. Where is... Check, 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 check. All right, so I need a new microphone cable. Hopefully my mic won't bug out too much during this. Get myself a little bigger there. Ooh, spooky. All right. So, hello everybody. I'm live. I think I'm live streaming now. I think. Let's take a look. Let's look at the board here. It says I'm live. It says I have a good stream health. I've been going for a minute and 44 seconds. Oh, okay. I don't need to see my own live stream because I know what I look like. It's probably going to take me off the watching list. So I'm probably not going to have a bunch of people watching. I'm probably I'd be surprised if anybody at all tunes into this live, but it made more sense to do this live than to pre-record it because I'm lazy and I don't want to edit. So let's get down to it. My name is The King from Mayor on YouTube, aka Ken Poirier. I am an author. I write books. I live in Los Angeles. I do freelancing for media consulting. So people in LA, they want help with a website or publishing a book or putting a DVD together or whatever the case may be. I help them out with it. I am not a union member in Hollywood, but I wouldn't mind if that happened one day. So I do pay attention to a lot of things that go on in Hollywood. And I'm a big old nerd who loves superheroes, and I love sci-fi. And of course, I'm more in the Star Trek camp than the Star Wars camp, if that's important to you. I've got a couple of videos on my channel talking about that if you want to check it out. But this video is specifically for Doomcock. Is the name of the fellow, Overlord DVD, Dr. Von Doomcock, which is he's a character, to say the least, and of course, Anti-trekker, and I have to admit I watched these guys for a little bit in the past, and I stopped watching them because it felt like a lot of the things they were saying were kind of repetitive and things that I hear from a lot of people, and a lot of things that I can't say I disagree with a whole lot of what they say, especially when it comes to our new versions of things that we have. I may have the same opinion, but for different reasons. But recently, in the past week or two, they came back onto my radar when they both had this very interesting, I guess they're calling it the feminism or the politically correct or the people of color conspiracy theory in Hollywood. And here's the thing, right? Regardless of whether I agree with anybody's opinion or reasons for their opinion, what these two people are doing that's important is they're asking questions, right? Because that is the start of all knowledge begins with asking a question. And that is really how you can tell if somebody is intelligent or not, is if they ask a question, right? So they asked this question and they tried to give their answer to this question. And I disagree with their answer, but I like the question. So let's take a look at the question and then I'll try and give my answer to it. So this question started originally with Doomcock and then it was reissued by Anti-trekker. So let's start with what Doomcock has to say, and I just want to make sure that we get the desktop audio on this, so I'm going to turn that up so you can hear it, and I'm going to turn my mic down so that you don't hear the echo.
In short, Doomcock raises the question, if it's true that when you get woke, you go broke, then why are all our geek myths being destroyed in such a seemingly coordinated way? How is it even possible that this effort should be coordinated between diverse studios and so consistently applied across franchises? The motive can't be profit, and that boggles Doomcock's mind. I remember the good old days when companies wanted to make money. Give the people what they want, the saying said. The customer is always right was a business axiom created by those who were in business to make money. Yet, as I've pointed out, these experiments in destroying canon have not proven to be profitable. It's madness to completely alienate your existing fan base in order to pursue an unproven and hypothetical target audience. So again, this begs the question, why is this destruction of our canon happening? Occam's razor tells us that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. People often say, it's just a fad, trying to draw in new diverse audiences, trying to exploit millennials with social justice warrior tendencies, and bring in people of color. Yes, if it were an effective strategy for expanding profits, this would be a viable explanation. And yet, what have these movies and shows demonstrated? Failure after failure. Ghostbusters 2016, a bomb. Solo, a bomb. Black Buffy the Vampire Slayer, DOA. Fant 4-Stick recasting Sue Storm's brother, Johnny, as the very black man they're considering recasting as Superman. None of this has worked. It doesn't recruit vast numbers of social justice warriors into the theater, but it does alienate the loyal fanbase you've managed to build up for decades. Where is the wisdom in this? Yet this pattern is being repeated constantly. In our modern myths, the fertile ground of our inner lives are being destroyed, the ground salted. These days, it seems, there is no island of fidelity to cling to in this storm. How are we to understand this? A possibility.
Let me turn my mic back on. Okay, so let's stop right there. So that's the question, right? Why are all of these studios doing the same thing when it's obviously not getting the financial response that would make you think that it's a good idea to continue with this, and yet they still continue to do this. Now, let me also do an aside here for a second, and let me say, despite the fact that I'm a nerd and all this stuff, and I do love my canon, I love canon Star Trek. I don't like Star Trek Discovery. I was on board with the new Star Wars until The Last Jedi, but it's not an issue of characters being female. It's not an issue of characters being black. I don't care if they want to do a black Superman. You know, they did a black Superman back after the death of Superman. They did a bunch of different Supermans as a test to see, you know, what people would like. There was a black Superman, Man of Steel, or just Steel for short. I don't think those things are as important as Doomcock feels they are. And if you do feel that way, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm just saying that I personally don't feel that way. My problem is that they're not making good movies, and this is the thing that really bugs me. I don't care that the 2016 Ghostbusters were female. I'm fine with female Ghostbusters. I'm not fine with a movie that's supposed to be a comedy that is it's supposed to be comedy, but it's not funny. You know, it's supposed to be an action movie, but there's just an action sequence at the end, most of which got cut. You know, it's just you know, they don't do any ghost busting in 2016 until like the very end of the movie. They're just not good Ghostbusters. Okay, I doesn't if they were men and if men did the exact same thing, it'd still be a bad movie. The Last Jedi was, I don't know what the hell was going on with that. I don't care if a woman or a man is the hero. I actually don't really have much problem with Rey. Rey is fine. I don't have any problem with her. The problem was the story. The problem was it just wasn't a good movie. It wasn't entertaining. Despite having all these special effects and all this stuff that was really great, it's not enough to carry it when it's got a bad story and no direction and it's all over the place. And so this has been a question that I've been kicking over for the past couple of years myself, trying to figure out what's going on. Is it just that Hollywood has become too committee sized? You know, I mean, look, to look at the DC Suicide Squad, that all got chopped up and hacked to death as well. So some people want to say, okay, I up till now, until I saw these videos, what I was thinking was, oh, well, it's marketing, right? Everything's you start off with a good movie and then it gets destroyed in marketing. And that kind of makes sense, except for the fact that you have, if marketing is to be responsible, then it doesn't make any sense why marketing is not stopping people from alienating the fan base, right? Because okay, so Doomcock goes into this crazy thing with the Tower of Babylon and stuff. We're not going to watch that because it's crazy nonsense. But let's take a look at Anti-trekker here and what he has to say.
And this conspiracy theory actually comes from none other than Doomcock. At least that's the first time I've heard of this particular idea. And it has to do with something that is near and dear to myself and all of you. And that's why you're probably thinking,
why the heck is Anti-trekker talking about this crazy political stuff when we like talking about nerdy stuff?
We're getting to the nerdy stuff now. This conspiracy theory involves Star Wars and Star Trek and all the other franchises that we see in Hollywood being feminized. Ghostbusters. I don't have to give a list. You guys know what's going on. So the idea is that, well, we have to figure out, why is Hollywood making apparently a concerted and somewhat organized effort to feminize franchise after franchise after franchise, to where at this point it's actually becoming unusual that a film is going to come out that doesn't feature a woman who can kick a guy's butt, even though she's half his size. It's becoming unusual for a man to be a competent hero. It's becoming unusual for any of what we would consider classic storytelling to be told anymore. Why is that? There has to be a reason. I mean, it would be one thing if one studio had an agenda. If we had Lucasfilm out there doing their thing because Kathleen Kennedy has a feminist agenda and wanted to push this and push and push and push. But it's not just Lucasfilm. That's the point. If it were just Lucasfilm, we can blame Kathleen Kennedy and her political ideology. But we can't blame Kathleen Kennedy for what's going on at CBS. We can't blame Kathleen Kennedy for what's going on at Warner Brothers or Universal or any of the other studios out there. So there has to be some thread, some causal reason that these studios are trying to do this. Now,
okay, so let's stop that right there for a second. We'll catch up to where he's at later, because he goes on a bit of an aside there. So like I said, I don't care if it's female, male. I don't think that changes whether you have a good story or not. But you have this situation where the studios are just losing money over and over again, and their response is to alienate the fan base, further digging themselves into a hole. And these guys are right in the fact that it doesn't make any sense from a business standpoint, because businesses are about making money. And if you look at pretty much any other business, it's all about the bottom line, right? It's all about making money. And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters, did you or did you not make money? And to throw all these political things and all of this what's the word? All this derision, that's the word I was looking for, into your customer base, it makes no sense at all. And you know what? It's not just media. We see it the most in media because that's what we get exposed to the most, right? We certainly watch a lot more movies and shows and read books than we do, say, perhaps think about the marketing strategy behind Pepsi or whatever. But it's not isolated. It's not isolated to the media industry. It's not just YouTube. It's across the board in the United States. All these companies are having this big liberal leftist push, and that doesn't seem to make sense, because traditionally corporations have gone towards the right, because the conservatives are very much about making money, right? It's traditionally these companies tend to push the conservative narrative, and one theory out there is that that they're trying to open up these new markets, that they're the men are becoming less educated, they're making less money, they're becoming less of the bread earners in our society, and that could be a topic for another day. But regardless of that issue in particular, we have to accept this as reality. Women have a lot more advantages when it comes to going to school. Socially, they have a lot more advantages when it comes to networking. Also, maybe this is just because I'm a dude, but women are more attractive than men, and so if people want to see something on the screen, they want to see it makes more sense. You want to see a beautiful woman over a tough guy, but whatever, each their own preference. I think that's more a personal thing for me, but it's just men are falling behind, women are coming up. The minority population is increasing, or I should say not increasing, but it's having a larger growth than the white population. So it makes sense to diversify. It makes sense to to broaden your customer base, but it doesn't make sense to get rid of your pre-existing customer base, which is a huge part of your income. And while perhaps women read more books than men do, they certainly aren't buying more comic books than men are. When it comes to watching TV, I'd say it's about dead even. And of course, why wouldn't you have shows that would appeal to a demographic besides white men? That of course you would, but to abandon that existing source of revenue makes no sense whatsoever. And I'll get to my answer on that in just a second, but I want to listen to the rest of what Anti-trekker has to say, and I did fast forward a little bit here because he did get off track, so
didn't watch it. But that's not the problem with these modern hyper-feminized shows, because even when they are failures, the studios just come out and blame the audience. They point the finger at me, even though I'm one of the people that's actually watching Star Trek Discovery, even though I'm one of the people that actually went to see Solo. I'm the cause of the problem, because I didn't like the crap that they produced. I didn't like my favorite beloved franchises being turned into propaganda for a political cause. And that makes me a bad person. And it means that since I didn't like Star Trek Discovery and I didn't like The Last Jedi, that makes me a horrible person who hates women and all that garbage. Which is a load of crap. We all know that. The weird thing, though, is, okay, so the studios are not making, either they're making less money or they're not making money on their projects. Solo flat out lost money. We don't know about Star Trek Discovery, but at their budget levels, I would dare say they're either losing money or just barely breaking even. So with what's going on here, money can't possibly be the motive. And that makes no sense, because why would CBS and Lucasfilm and other large companies be rolling millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into something they know is going to lose money? Unless there's some other compelling reason.
Okay, and now this is where I think that Anti-trekker goes wrong, as well as Overlord DVD, Doomcock. Both go wrong in this direction, right? Because I didn't show this part, but in the beginning they both talk about Occam's razor, the idea that the explanation that needs the least amount of assumption is the correct one, and this is where they go off the rails, because again, like I said, it doesn't make any sense for a company to lose money. All right, and so when you divert from the profit motive, right, then you have to make an assumption, and both of these guys do this. Doomcock goes on about the Tower of Babel and how it's supposed to divide us against the powers and blah blah blah. And while that may be true, that a divided populace is more manipulative, able to be manipulated than a unanimous populace, that still doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, the companies need to make money. All right, now in Anti-trekker's leap of logic, his jump is that it's the federal government is behind it all, and the federal government wants to keep us fighting, and yada yada yada. That also doesn't make any sense. You're going into the whole Alex Jones territory here, where you're saying, okay, the CIA has implanted certain individuals across all corporations in the United States, and they're pushing this agenda. No, that doesn't make any sense either, because even if they were, they would still have to. They'd still be beholden to the board of directors. They'd still be beholden to the shareholders. All right, these are public companies, right? So just like we have a vote in the United States, the shareholders have a vote in what happens in these companies. So this again doesn't make any sense. It's a nice story, but you missed the mark. Okay, go back. Occam's razor. Companies need to make money, right? And so in business, we have something what's called, especially in the entertainment business, we have something what's called a loss leader. Okay, a loss leader. All right. So in the case of CBS All Access, Star Trek Discovery, you can do a 1 month sign up, and you can get your first month is free, right? So you can watch Star Trek without paying any money at all. Now, smart people will just wait till the season's over, and we'll use that 1 free month to watch all of Star Trek Discovery and decide if they like it or not. But most people won't. They'll tune into the 1 free month, and they'll watch 4 episodes, and CBS is hoping that people will get hooked, and then once they're hooked, then they can sell them the rest of the season or next season at full price. Okay, that's your loss leader strategy, CBS. So you have, but Star Wars, it doesn't quite make that much sense. Of course, we did see, Rogue One and The Last Jedi on Netflix, where again they're not making as much money on that as Disney will on its streaming service, and so there again you have this idea of a loss leader, right? So you're gonna not make as much money on Netflix just to get people used to the idea of watching these movies on a streaming service, and then you push your own streaming service, right? Okay, that's makes business sense, but what doesn't make business sense is making these awful movies, losing money, and then blaming the fans for it, right? So they say, well, it's obviously a political agenda, and it is political, but it's political for the purpose of making money, right? So how are these companies going to make money pushing this what is an unpopular political opinion? Now, we all know feminists and leftists and socialists are very, very loud, okay? But most people aren't feminists. Most people aren't liberals or socialists. Well, a lot of people are liberals, but you can get into all sorts of definitions of liberalism. But for these hardcore extremists, which is what's taking over, which is the narrative being pushed, these extreme positions, they're a minority, right? So it makes, again, no sense to push that as a political narrative unless somehow it's going to make you money, right? So then why are all not why, we know the why. The why is make money. Okay, the question is how does this loss leader, right, making these movies that aren't making any money to push this political narrative, how is that making money? Well, how is having a leftist, extreme socialist, leftist, globalist government going to make a multinational corporation money? Did you figure it out yet? Because if not, I'm about to tell you. All right, so when I first started working in film back in the 90s, there used to be this saying, and I don't know if it's still around, because it's certainly not politically incorrect. And maybe it's still a thing. Maybe they don't use the term anymore. But back in the 90s, there used to be this thing called a Mexican C-stand. Now, if you don't know what a C-stand is, this is basically, it's a tripod, which may or may not have a boom on it, and it usually has a gripping mechanism. It's primarily used for holding up light flags, these black flags that mask off light from hitting something, right? You put it in front of the lamp and it casts a shadow on the set. They can also be used to hold up cue cards or all sorts of other things. That's a C-stand, okay? But a Mexican C-stand is in Mexico, when you're filming in Mexico, at least it was true in the 90s. I don't know if it's still true today, but it was cheaper to pay a Mexican to hold up the flag than it was to rent the C-stand for the day. Okay, renting a C-stand for the day cost anywhere from $10 to $30, and you could pay a Mexican 25 to 75 cents a day to stand there and hold a black flag to mask a light. And so this was called a Mexican C-stand. It was if you're shooting in Mexico, you don't rent C-stands, you rent Mexicans, okay? Cheap labor, okay? One of the things that's going on right now with the Republicans, specifically under the Donald Trump leadership, is the pushback against NAFTA, against the North American Free Trade Agreement. We have tariffs are happening. We're talking about having limits on overseas labor, so on and so forth, putting these limits on American companies, and this can end up costing these companies a lot of money. If the North American Free Trade Agreement goes down, and it's not just Hollywood, it's all sorts of people, it's going to have a huge non-refundable, non-stoppable cause on profit lines for these large internationally operating companies. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing is healthcare. Okay, well, I tend to lean towards the left, and I tend to be socialist on the libertarian side, not so extreme as to be Antifa or any of those people. But I do believe in certain things would benefit us as a society, and one of those is free health care. It also would benefit a lot of companies and corporations to have a federally funded health care, because it would dramatically reduce the cost for a lot of these companies with the healthcare mandates. You would be eliminating a lot of these costs, and while it will lead to an increase in taxes on the income of these companies, a lot of it will be picked up by the investing class and the working class. So overall, it will be a profit win for these companies to have a universal health care. Okay, so those are the two main issues, okay, if you those two issues alone are worth losing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money that these companies lose. If they can get someone like Bernie Sanders in the White House and push this globalism and push socialized healthcare and a lot of the other things that these that would benefit these companies, okay, it's the benefits are going to be way more than whatever tax reductions they're getting in the short term from the Republicans, because these will be forever things, right? Um, and just NAFTA alone, just the amount of money that it would cost these companies to actually have to pay people living wages, to have to hire Americans and do these other things. There's your profits right there. And again, it's like you guys both said in the beginning of your videos: follow the money. Occam's razor. The explanation that takes the least is the most likely, right? So there you go. I hope I explained it to you guys and anybody else who wants to listen. And I'm glad to be watching your two shows again, even if we disagree on some things. And even if I'm sick of hearing about Star Wars and Star Trek and have kind of given up on the whole thing, I'll continue to tune into you guys every now and then and see what you have going on. And hopefully maybe you guys will take a look at my channel and see what I have going on. I think I have a lot of good ideas and talk about a lot of important things, but it's hard for me to get out there. It's hard for me to get any traction since I can't pay for advertising or anything like that. So hopefully, we can build a healthy relationship. Thank you guys for doing a video that made me want to do a video. That's always great. So thank you. And I think we got to the end of the stream and nobody tuned in, but that's okay. Hopefully someone will watch the rerun. All right. Cheers. Good night.